Welcome to Unveiled, the Hampton Police Division podcast where we dive into the world of policing. I'm your host, Chief Jimmie Wideman, and today we're joined with Corporal Cooke and Detective Bryan. They're part of the Gang Violence Reduction Unit. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
I'm sorry.
They can't synchronize. Go ahead.
I'm Detective Bryan with the Hampton Police Division. I am currently assigned to the Group Violence Reduction Unit.
My name is Cooke. I'm a corporal with the Gang Reduction Unit. I've been on for 20 years and held different positions within the Hampton Police Division.
You're still here. That's very good, Cooke. Hey, can you tell us a little bit about your assignment and what you guys do day to day? Then we'll go into a more elaborate description of things. That's your cue. Yes, sir.
My normal day is to go over what has happened over the weekend or throughout the day as far as investigations that occurred in the city of Hampton. If it's shootings, burglaries, or other type of events, I go through all of those and see if it's members of our violent social network. If it is one of our members of the violent social network, I would get with Detective Bryan and also Detective Austin, who also is a member of our unit, and we go over it, and we strategize what we should do to implement a plan and on how to attack it. We have started taking those types of investigations on, and with the guys' help, we have also implemented ATF and also other members in order to fight these crimes.
So essentially with the Group Violence Reduction Unit, some places may call it the gang unit. Its purpose is to identify those that are part of a violent social network, identify the organization, its purpose, identify people by which would be victimized by them, especially acts of violence, and get identification on those people and try to, use that information to help solve crimes and prevent crimes. Is that about accurate?
Correct.
Yes, and one of the processes to do that is to review the previous cases, see if there's a nexus between the cases, the information we received, and what you know about those violent social networks and the members therein.
Correct.
All right, cool. Anything else?
On my end, I do a lot of identifying and documenting gang members, watch their social medias, see who they're hanging out with, look at their past criminal history, see if there's a current trend going on, just to see where their next crime may be, or whoever the current beefs are as well that are going on in the streets that we may not know about.
Because our communities are aligned and adjacent to each other, and of course, crime knows no boundaries, I think it's important that you have a communication, a network, and have some familiarity with the other actors in other cities. And some of the other cities have social groups that are monitored by law enforcement agencies. Can you explain how that sharing of information occurs and what groups you share with?
For me, we communicate back and forth with Newport News daily because our individuals are the same individuals that are causing problems in their city and vice versa. But we also go one step further. We make sure we know what's going on across the water, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Virginia Beach as well. So we always have an open line of communication, and we have contacts for basically every city at this point to see what's going on in their city and something that might cross over.
But we also check with crime analysts as well, and we do that on a daily basis to get updated information regarding to what happened, because they themselves might have links to other investigations. If guns are used, we review the NIBIN reports and see that if that has connections to other crimes associated with people on our vulnerability list. So again, we do go back over and over to communicate with other jurisdictions and be on a one-on-one basis, because again, the people that might be in Newport News maybe also be the same people that's in Yorktown and Portsmouth, but also in Virginia Beach and Norfolk as well.
And that's relevant to us because a lot of these social networks or groups, if there's rivalry or disputes between the members or the groups, if something happens in Newport News and one of the participants or that group has a footprint in Hampton, we can very well expect retaliation in Hampton.
Correct.
So those communications need to occur so we can proactively identify and in some instances protect those that could very well be the victims of violent crime. Some of the other ways that we do that, of course, not through the communication and networking, but through our intelligence and having partnerships with some of the federal partners that we have, like the FBI, ultimately are responsible for anything that's considered organized crime. Mm-hmm. They deal with terrorists, they deal with gangs, any organized network of criminals they have a stake in that. And because of all the gun violence, the ATF, they're becoming more proactive in helping us prosecute our gun weapons law violations. The benefit with having those partners are the resources, not only resources of, say, technology, monies, and manpower, but also of the federal prosecution, because it gives us a lot of leverage in the way of when we get a case that we can have and pursue federally, then we can leverage the time that they potentially could face for cooperation. And so establishing and maintaining those networks and those communications with those agencies is invaluable to what we do. So I'm going to take us down another road. So through you all's experiences, interaction, what do you think is a significant contributor to some young person or some teen, and even now some adults, deciding that they want to be a part of a violent social network or gang? What do you think is a contributing factor for that?
I was thinking about that question, and there's a lot of things that pop in. I was also thinking about the family environment exposure to violence that a lot of these youth are exposed to, the neighborhood violence that they're exposed to, socializing with other individuals in the same mindset, doing criminal activities, not going to school, low school attendance, not doing those extracurricular programs. And one of the main things for us is the unsupervised youth, and that leading to the chaos that we have in our communities. If they don't have the stable environment at home, and they don't have people to talk to, communicate with, they look for that communication in other places.
So what kind of crimes are they committing? What is typical of a crime that would be committed by someone that chooses to participate in a violent social network?
Well, what we have come across, a lot of our investigations have been either assaults or maimings, robberies, carjacking, car thefts, frauds. Believe it or not, these young people are committing these frauds, breaking into cars, stealing identification, doing white-collar crimes by making false checks, getting those PIN numbers, calculating all of that. Drug distribution is one of the main things that we see a lot of time is marijuana, disputes over marijuana, gun possession. Switches. They're now changing the custom of a firearm into an automatic weapon. We're seeing that more in our youth.
And what's the consequence of that? That modification in itself is going to have a stiffer penalty than just a simple possession of a firearm.
Correct. And that by alone has changed into a felony for us now, just recently.
It's making a semi-automatic weapon a fully automatic machine gun, which is, on the federal side, that's a big deal. So
good.
ATF helps us out a lot with that penalty for sure.
How about this trend of the car thefts, where we've been having a frequent occasion of certain varieties of cars are being stolen in the city limits? Is that associated with that violent social group, or is it just kind of random or one-off from what we've been seeing?
It can absolutely be part of any group violence, or it could just be completely somebody doing it on their own. But a lot of the crimes start, when we look at their history, starts with stealing vehicles. That's where it starts, because it's the cool thing to do. Their friends are doing it, so they want to be involved in it as well.
And I'm sorry to correct you, but unfortunately, we also have tutorials on YouTube how to break into cars and how to disassemble firearms. So we're seeing that more and more. So
in other words, they're educating themselves as well.
Correct. They're using the information that to obtain to not further a positive goal, but to further their criminal activity. That's why when these groups get together, it's nothing positive that we have seen through the course of our investigation. It's up to obtain money for themselves for the purposes of them and their group.
Well, that kind of defines a RICO. Last I checked, anytime you have an organized group that uses criminal activity to support its existence, that helps you or helps us define that as RICO, and then, of course, that becomes a federal matter. And subsequent to a federal investigation and conviction, there's more time that is applied to that. So I don't know if people fully think through, I guess, consequence of action. And unfortunately, that is often the case. But certainly there's some penalties that can be imposed, not only at the state, but at the federal level when you start, again, organizing yourselves, acting in concert, and participating in criminal activity for the benefit of a group. And I guess you all would tell me that's pretty accurate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
And have we had any opportunities to leverage that to the benefit of law enforcement, having the experiences when we're dealing with these people in the street?
We have a couple of investigations that we're currently working on now that stemmed from just one shooting incident that has involved into burglaries that it could be potentially connected to one of our other major crimes that we're currently investigating. Just like you talked about, Chief, unfortunately, these kids are committing these crimes. And they're committing the crimes on a level that is somewhat organized, but once we end up talking to them, they revert back to being a child. And then before we can do anything with them, we look for cooperation from their core, which is their family, but the core is not even there. The first thing they say is that don't talk to the police, don't cooperate with the police. Instead of moving to a direction of helping that child out to figure out what's going on in our community, they shut down everything else.
And that goes to our consistent efforts in building community trust, engaging the community so they understand the consequences of even those decisions. Because as much as we try to, I guess, be positive influences, like, for example, the school resource program is a great program for that. While we're in the schools, we are doing mentoring. We're identifying issues they may have so we can make proper referrals. We do camps and community events with a lot of these young people. But they go back to, and that may be 8 hours a day, but if they spend the other 16 in compromised environments, environments consisting of abuse, substance abuse, mental health, sleeping on floors and not having food available, that undoes all the work that we've done, is dismantled by that. So we need to continue to be supportive, even if it is education of the parents that you're speaking to, understanding that culture, it has no positive ends. And so, again, not only with the work that you all do with them, speaking to them, not only with the programs that are available for youth and young adults, it's a constant effort to try to keep these people safe and keep them alive. So dealing with the parents, I can imagine in some instances can be quite difficult. And through your experience, I'm sure you've experienced that. So what is the answer then? What do we do to move in the right direction? I mean, we can't lock everybody up. So what is from your perspective, how can we positively influence or give options opposed to finding violent social networks or peers to go to, opposed to what we can provide as services and opportunities? What do you see as an option?
I think we need to start promoting Hopeful Hampton a lot more to these children, to their families, to the parents, and also Operation Ceasefire. The Hopeful Hampton, they offer a lot of resources to the families that they can seek help. They have a peer program where they have somebody they can actually look up to and, look forward to seeing on a daily basis, especially if they come from that single parent household where it's just a mom. Young men, they need a father figure in their life to keep them going. And I think if they go through this program, they have somebody that they can look up to and see doing the right thing. Just somebody, really just to look up to and motivate them to keep going and staying out of trouble. But I always, growing up for me, sports always kept me in line, along with a lot of my other friends who actually come from single-parent households where they've 100% could have seeked to the streets if they wanted to. But because they played sports their entire lives and they had coaches who ended up, they were looking at as their second father. They didn't want to disappoint them at all. So they always stayed on the right track and kept them going and staying out of trouble. So I think sports is one of the biggest things for me that I think keeps kids out of trouble. And I wish we had a little bit more programs, especially during the summertime, where kids had that escape rather than just running around the streets at night.
Right. And we had a previous guest, Mr. Brown. He mentioned some of the programs that Hopeful Hampton is providing for after hours and give them some activities when school is out of session to help do the very thing that you speak to, is to keep them off the streets, give them distractions from the negative influences that might exist in their communities or around them. And I think that's of benefit because from all the programs we've had a great deal of success. We've had no conflict occur while we're at those locations with that target group. And that speaks volumes to the efforts and the hard work that they're doing in those programs. Anything else that you guys want to say out there, even if it's to the young men and women that might entertain participation in some sort of violent social network or any criminality whatsoever? You don't have to be in a violent social network to be a violent person or be a criminal. So is there anything that we can say that would potentially encourage them to make good choices?
Well, members with our unit, they positively believe that we are invested in our community. We believe that we all work together and we strive for the same kind of goal. And we all want the best things for our kids. And when we go down to these different locations and we talk to everybody and we try to mentor the best we can, we try to give the advice the best we can, and we try to interact with the families and the kids the best we can. At the end of the day, we just want the best for the community.
How about you there, Bryan?
Stay in school.
That's a good one. No, really, yeah.
Stay in school. We see a lot of kids drop out at a very early age, and it leads to nothing good at that point. But I would say stay in school. Ultimately, our job isn't to ruin these kids' lives at all. We actually want these kids to do something beneficial with their lives. And I wish and I hope that the parents understand that when we do talk to them, because we're not just trying to lock them up and put them in juvenile detention. We actually want them to do something with their lives.
Let's say if a parent were to approach either one of you and say, hey, I've got a kid that's on the borderline of trouble, and I think we can salvage them. If they came to you for help, how would you direct that?
Well, one of the first things I would do is just get an understanding of everything that that parent might need from us and where that child is going in their life. And I'll point them towards direction, especially Hope for Hampton. I like dealing with Hope for Hampton because it's a one-on-one conversation that I've had with Miss Handy, who's in charge, and she's a very positive,
passionate
mentor person. She 100% is. And I would try to figure out what can I do on one, what are the groups that we have that can mentor the child. I would try to introduce myself to the child themselves and point them to the right direction. Go with that child to Hope for Hampton.
I'll just interrupt you. You keep saying child, but some of these people grown. So just to throw that in there, so as you respond, there have to be other options because some of the people that you all are encountering are full adults just choosing to make bad choices and to be negative influences on the young folk, the child that you're talking about. So just to expand in that direction. I just didn't want it to seem singularly focused.
Okay.
They want to test you. You can go ahead.
No, and again, depending on the age group that I'm dealing with and try to point them to the right resources in order to help them out.
Sure.
That would be the main thing.
I think he answered the question.
Yeah, I figured you would. Okay, that's good. If we don't have anything else, we can wrap it up. I thank you guys for coming out. I thank you all for joining us in this episode of Unveiled. And thank you, Corporal Cooke and Detective Bryan, for sharing with the listeners a very important subject. And be sure to join us next time as we continue to shed light on the Hampton Police Division and the extraordinary individuals who serve and protect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Unveiled, a podcast that highlights the extraordinary men and women of the Hampton Police Division. To learn more about the Hampton Police Division, check us out on social media and on our website at www.hampton.gov/police.